Maven Casting Associates is a proud champion of emerging and diverse talent. Founder Emma Norman is also an actor, performing in cruising, cabaret, national and international theatre. Emma found her feet in casting whilst looking after various in-house projects for companies such as Live Nation. Emma now casts for a huge range of projects, from musical theatre to TV and everything in between. Hello Emma, how are you?
Hello gentlemen, I'm very good. Thank you so much for asking me to jabber this evening on your wonderful podcast.
No, not a problem. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a real pleasure, and we can't wait to take a deep dive into your work, really, which is sort of all industry encompassing at times. So there's so much to discuss. So let's just jump right in. And as I just sort of mentioned, a hugely exciting part to talk to you is the fact that you've done so much and are doing so much. But we'd like to sort of start chronologically, start at the beginning, and just ask you what made you first fall in love with this industry, this crazy thing that we all take part in, and then how did that develop into a career?
I can tell you the exact moment that I fell in love with performing arts, and it was during the 1981 Eurovision Song Contest.
Fantastic.
And I was 7, and I saw Bucks Fizz win the Eurovision Song Contest, and I sat there on the couch and I just thought, this is just the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. and actually, all through my life, it's been my dream to be the British Eurovision entry, the UK entry. And a couple of times we submitted a song, I got quite close, but I never made it. But that was the moment I got interested in music. And then musical theatre specifically was when I saw Michael Crawford in Barnum at Manchester Opera House when I was a child. I think I was about 9. That's what gave me the urge to be involved in musical theatre. And so I was just obsessed with it all through being a child. Used to make my brothers dress up in dresses and used to charge the neighbours to come and watch us perform in the garden.
Fantastic.
And all of that. So I started performing at the age of 20 professionally. I worked at Granada Studios in Manchester as an in-house vocalist. And kind of from there, I've done everything really over the 30 years or so. I've been in the industry, cruise flybacks and teaching and theatre and education and panto. Just dip my toe into everything I possibly could really. And about 5 years ago, I stopped performing and went to work for Cuff and Taylor, who were a part of the Live Nation family, and worked in their artist management department. So that was just wonderful. I got to manage big name recording artists and famous actors. I looked after Sheridan Smith for 2 years, which was a huge privilege. Calabro, who won Britain's Got Talent, I was their manager for 4 years. That was a wonderful insight into a different part of the industry. It was a huge education to see things from the other side that way. Yeah.
Oh, it's quite the roller coaster.
Yeah, it is. And I've loved every single part of it really. I've loved being a performer. I've loved looking after other performers, and now I really love finding performers and giving them a platform to succeed in the industry.
Yeah, I can imagine that's really, really rewarding.
Yeah, it really
I'd
is.
love to ask a bit more about your performing work as both an actor and as a backing vocalist.
Yeah.
As a backing vocalist, you're sort of often stuck to singing the same line for the same songs over and over.
Yeah.
How do you keep it fresh for yourself as a performer?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't know if you could say I was lucky or unlucky, but I stayed in the same kind of show for 10 years. And I got ingrained into the world of Elvis Presley. That was the bulk. That was the bulk of my touring backing vocalist career. I jumped from Elvis to Elvis to Elvis. All the top British Elvises who played the big ATG theatres up and down the country. I used to jump between those shows, and always on the same harmony line, always the same every time. So that was it could get difficult. but you know, occasionally we'd be on the motorway in the tour bus on the way down, and the boss would say, "Right, let's shove this one in tonight," and we'd all learn it in the van. We'd thrash it out at sound check, and then we'd perform
Wow.
it at Manchester Palace Theatre to a full house. So we did kind of live on adrenaline sometimes. It wasn't always, you know, textbook the same numbers every night. And every January I used to sing at the European Elvis Championships. Um, so all the I'm going to say all the Elvi from around the world would all fly into Britain and compete against each other. So we would, me and two other ladies, we would do we'd sing with maybe 20, 25 Elvises in a day,
Wow.
and not know which song they were going to whip up out of the Elvis's back catalogue, and we just had to know them. You know, so that was real seat of your pants type stuff, proper adrenaline. Yeah, it was crazy, but such fun. You know, we would do Suspicious Minds like 13 times in a day, or you know, it was great. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. With that in mind, obviously singing so many times a day, do you have any tips for vocal endurance? It's something I know we can always improve on. It can be a daunting task for performers who haven't been on a tour in a long run of shows before.
Do you know, I would just say sleep. You know, sleep is the best thing. And I know a lot of performers now, especially, you know, your theatre trained performers, their lives are about self-care, are about sleep and water and eating well, and being mindful in that way. I kind of the musicians I toured with were more giggers. You know, your guys and girls who'd come up through the kind of the pubs and clubs and session world. And so, you know, often we would do a show and we would all head back to the hotel, and then, you know, people would want to have a drink and a curry, and stay up really, really late. And I know that's not the way it is so much with theatre trained people, because they just have a bit more self-care for themselves, you know. And
Not all the ones I know.
maybe not, but you know, or they say that they do. You know, I drink a lot of water and I never eat curry and da 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 da. But
We're
yeah,
lovely liars, us performers, aren't we?
we are. But I mean, the tour, you know, a lot of UK tours are, you're in a certain town, aren't you, for a week, you know, and then move on, or 5 nights and then you move on. But we were one nighters. You know, we never did residencies. So we would be one night, we would be at Sunderland Empire, and then the following night would be at Wimbledon New, and then the following night would be at Manchester Palace. So it was really quite full on and tiring. So we would try and sleep on the journey to and from the places. Yeah, it was a crazy time, and we didn't get to see much of any of the towns either, because we'd roll up at 3, sound check, have a bit of food, and then be on stage, and then move on to the next place. So yeah, it's
would you do the journey in over the night after the show, or would you do it in the morning?
sometimes we would travel during the night if it wasn't so far. Then we could have the day at least sleeping or pottering about a town, but mostly we would travel the following day. Yeah, all of us cooped up together in a in a tour bus, which after a good few years together can be stressful. It can be stressful sometimes. Yeah.
There's only so many times you can give that sort of, you know, oh yeah, we're all friends
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing,
But
isn't it? Yeah.
also, you know, I love all the people I worked with during that time. I absolutely adore them, and yeah, it was a wonderful time.
Yeah, I think even with long length tours, even if there are people there that you're naturally not going to get along with, just because that's how human beings are, there's always that measure of respect anyway. If you're doing the same job and you're still performing at the same level, there's still that mutual respect, I think, that always puts the
Yeah,
job first in moments like that.
absolutely. And we were playing in the, you know, we were playing in huge venues up and down the country, all the great theatres, and for some reason Elvis just fills seats. I think it always will. You know, we never played a venue that wasn't 70 or 80% and above full. So yeah, it was we were a tight unit, and we were like a family, and families fall out, don't they, sometimes when they're
Of
on the
course.
road together. But it was great, and I'm very fond of everybody that I worked with when I was on the road. When I was on the road all those years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you about your West End debut in The Pirate Queen, which, you know,
Yeah.
to perform in the West End at all is such a fantastic achievement.
Thank
And
you.
you posted about doing that, and you mentioned your age when you got the part, that it was your
Yeah.
West End debut, and you mentioned your age.
Mhm.
What was the thinking behind putting those two together and putting that as a sort of public facing post about getting that West End debut at your age? What was the message you wanted to convey with that, and then how much did you enjoy the job after you earned the opportunity?
Oh gosh. Oh, right. Well, I was very vocal about my age because I was 45 when I did The Pirate Queen at the Coliseum, and I, as a casting director, come across so many performers who think that if they haven't made it by the time they're mid-20s, or some of them early 20s, they think it's just never going to happen for them. And I just kind of wanted to give people a bit of a boost, and let them know that it is possible. I mean, for me, the story of how it happened for me is a bit of an unusual story. I went. This sounds very clangy, but I was in LA with
Oh yes.
Clang. I was in LA with Calabro, and they were performing on America's Got Talent. So we'd spent a week away in LA. I went with them, which was just fantastic, a real privilege. And then
Yeah,
we
manager's perks, that, isn't
yeah,
it?
it was just wonderful to have a week in LA for starters, and then to be backstage at AGT was just absolutely surreal. And then we came back and we went straight onto a cruise called the Stages Cruise. So during that cruise, I was looking after Calabro and Sheridan. They were both performing on this cruise at the same time. And it was like a musical theatre cruise for a week. And on the final night, Sheridan had just done her show, and she went to bed. She was pregnant with Billy at the time, so she went to bed, and the boys were elsewhere. And so I went up to the cocktail bar and clocked off and had a couple of gins and relaxed. And there was a pianist there who was playing show tunes, and anybody who wanted to get up could perform. And so I got up and sang He's My Boy from Everybody's Talking About Jamie. And the producer of The Pirate Queen was in the bar,
Wow.
Tom Gribby. And so when I got off the ship, he emailed me and asked me to come down to London to see him at his office, which I did. I had a little bit of a sing through the material, and then they offered me the role, one of the lead roles in Pirate Queen. So it was all a bit just crazy and surreal. So I didn't get the job through an audition like in the real world. It just came through a chance encounter on a cruise ship.
Yeah. That
And
really is one of those right place, right
yeah,
person, right time moments that
yeah,
you generally only hear about in either films or Olivier award-winning actors'
yeah.
acceptance speeches when you're
It's
like, "Damn
crazy.
you!"
It is. It's just me and Jane McDonald that, it's the
Yeah.
same thing has happened to her a little bit. But yeah, and then so I rolled up to rehearsal on the first day, and all the big names that I've followed their careers so avidly, like Rachel Tucker and Earl Carpenter and Hannah Waddingham and Daniel Boyes, all these wonderful theatre names, and they're all coming to me and they're saying, "So where where have you sprung from again? Or where are you from?" Like, because I hadn't worked my way up from being
Hmm.
a grad and done the ensemble and the chorus and all of that stuff. I just kind of walked directly into a leading role in something huge like that. So yeah, that was it was just a surreal time for me, but I absolutely loved it. I felt a bit overwhelmed at times. I'd never done West End before. Little bit of imposter syndrome, but everybody gets that, I suppose.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Um, But yeah, it was very special. Really, really a dream come true. Just for one night,
Yeah.
one night only. But it was something I've wanted to do since I was a child. So it was great to tick that box. Yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations, and I'm sure
Thank
you're.
you.
It wasn't something I saw, but I imagine it was something that as you said, you performed in really big venues, and you talk about imposter syndrome. But when you walk out there in the moment, the sort of training overrides. Hopefully, that's at least the goal, right? Um,
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you a bit more about vocals and vocalists. It's an area that Christian and I are woefully inadequate in. So we're not.
Do you
we
boys are you boys singers? I've had a look at both your Spotlight accounts.
Um,
I've Christian,
well,
what would you say you're a singer?
in the shower, I would say I am
Everybody,
below par.
come on, everybody can sing with the right training, I think.
I think too many
Um,
people have told Christian that anyone can
yeah,
sing, and he just. I've
I had.
watched him
Oh,
perform Shrek the musical at drama school, and
did you?
that was an incredible experience. The I
What
picked this
role?
flower song.
Oh,
He
right,
played
okay.
he played for Shrek, and he brought a prop into the actual singing lesson. He brought some little daisies that he found on Chiswick Green, and
Oh,
then brought it.
bless.
No
Oh, bless
practice.
you.
I've been waiting for so long to try and get that story of one of our
And
podcasts.
now
Yeah,
it's in.
Yeah,
Now
that
yeah.
was
it's
just
in.
to it was just to deter away from the vocal performance, to be honest. I think.
And we
But
won't
yeah,
talk
no.
about
In
the
answer to your
feedback you
question,
received when you sung 16 going on 17, will we? We won't talk
All
I
about.
think
right.
we'll leave that
There
one out,
has
shall
to
we?
be some footage of this somewhere that I can have a look at.
I'll try and dig something out of the
That
archives.
would be great.
I think in terms of myself, I can sort of sing. I can sort of sing. I'm
You can sing.
okay, and I love acting through song. But in terms of, I did
Yeah.
one small musical in a pub theatre, and I loved the experience. But I imagine the musical director started getting fed up with the fact I just couldn't do harmonies because I was just never trained to do harmonies. So I was just
Yeah.
guessing. And then when you stand near someone that's singing a different line, and you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, why is my voice now doing what they're doing?
Yeah.
It's just,
It's
it's
such
not something I've
a
had.
skill.
I
It's
can,
such a skill, harmonies. Yeah.
Oh, it's so difficult. It's. I think some people really underestimate just
Yeah,
how
they do.
technical a skill singing is. But
Yeah.
we can act our way through song all right, and
Good.
we know our place. But I'd love to ask you in terms of getting into vocalist work, because you've done it not only in your performing career, in your managerial career, in your casting career, and although not exclusively, is very centered around vocalists and vocals.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you can give to a performer wanting to get into vocal work in any capacity, and the vocalist casting process itself? Any advice on that?
Something I wish I'd done when I was younger is to learn music theory and learn to read music.
Yeah.
A lot of the great vocalist fixing companies in the world, but mostly in this country, Capital Voices being one of them, requires all their people on their books to be readers, to be sight readers.
Wow.
Same whenever I cast for Live Nation, backing vocalists for major recording artists or tribute tours or any of that stuff, they like me to really deep dive and look for readers, because it makes the process quicker and it makes it smoother if people can just walk into a venue or a booth and read what they need to do, as opposed to
Can
learn
I
it by
quickly
ear.
jump in on that and say, is that something that you just trust something on their spotlight, or is it a sort of surprise test, or just a planned thing that you do in vocalist auditions where vocalists know that they're going to get given a piece of music and they're going to have to sight read it, or you're going to give them, I don't know, a piece of sheet music and they have to sing it directly?
I
That's the same
trust.
thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I generally trust. If
Yeah.
I put something on Spotlight, I cast a thing about 6 weeks ago for a UK tour for Live Nation, a major Broadway star that's coming over to Britain, and my brief from the team at Live Nation was these 3 people have to be readers. I made sure when I put it on Spotlight that I was very, what's the word? Very
Clear.
Clear is the word. I'm very clear and strict about these people must be readers. And I do, if an agent submits their client and says they're a reader, then I am prone to believe that agent. I've never been disappointed. I've never had an MD come at me or a producer and say, Emma, this person struggled on day one. That's never happened, touch wood, yet.
Good.
But yeah, it's such a shame because there's so many phenomenal vocalists out there who will miss out on the chance of doing great work like this because they don't sight read. I don't sight read. I don't read music. Everything I do is by ear. And I know if I went in and did BVs for, a high-end celebrity or high-end tour, that I could pick things up very, very quickly by ear. But sometimes that's just not enough. I cast a thing for Sony Masterworks last summer, and that was the exact same principle. Everybody they had on that cast recording, they wanted to be a reader and to roll in on the day and just nail it quickly. So yeah, if anybody out there is thinking of getting into that world, I would suggest you just make a start on the theory. It's not going to take you too long to pick up even the basics of it. And also, if you're a great singer, get yourself online on social, record yourself, get some stuff out there for the world to see and hear. I worked for X Factor a couple of years ago, casting vocalists, and so many people I found on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram. Just by using hashtags, looking at hashtags male vocalist or R&B singer or hashtag rapper or all the various ways to find people on socials like that. 3 or 4 of the guys I submitted to the team for X Factor I found on Instagram. So I say this a lot, you never know who's looking at your social media ever. You never know whose eyes are on it. But yeah, music theory. I wish I'd done it. I'm 46 now. I mean, I could do it now, I suppose.
Definitely.
But I wish I'd done it when I was younger, because I think the world would have opened up for me a bit more with regards to the quality of backing vocals and the projects that I would have been offered. I think that's my top tip. Emma's top tip. Learn some theory.
Jot it down, kids.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. So yeah.
Great. I was going to ask about a showreel seen as an essential for screen actors. Do you think a vocal reel is an essential for vocalists? And with that said, what makes a good and a bad vocal reel?
So many people apply for things for projects that I am working on, and I click on their spotlight, or I click on their Mandy or their V show cards or their Flyerbox, whatever platform they're on backstage, and they don't have a vocal reel. And they're a singer, and it's like if you're an actor and you don't have a show reel on there, you're wasting your subscription. You're wasting that your moment on that platform, your place on that platform. When I click on someone applies for a big backing vocalist or singing role for me, and I click on their spotlight and there's no vocal reel there, I think, well, how do I know you're a singer? How do I, where's the proof? I can see your credits, but still I want to hear the quality of your voice and the tone and the character in it and who you are, So if that's not there, that's often disappointing. And I know another vocal casting directors will then kind of investigate YouTube, see if you can find anything on there of you, or do a bit of a social media deep dive, and then sometimes there's stuff on there that maybe you don't want us to be listening to.
Always.
You know what I mean, though? It's like, you show, have your marketplace, isn't it? Of
just getting flashbacks of hoping to type in on YouTube Christian Lee Smith Shrek the Musical and something.
I'm just wait while I just jot that down, because I'm going to do it after. Hang on.
Wow.
Yeah, right. That's it. I'm going to hunt that down.
You got that one down, have you?
Yeah, that's what we look like. But you know what I mean? If your stuff isn't there on your spotlight, then, and I'm kind of intrigued and interested by you, I'm going to look elsewhere. And it might be something absolutely horrific from your training, or from your, something your mates put up with you that they filmed. It's, sometimes it's not always going to show you in the best light. So
yeah, but just on that front, in terms of I think it might be that thing that happens with actor showreels as well, where people that may have just come out of drama school, or they didn't go to drama school, or they don't necessarily have the funds to afford like a film quality show reel feel
Yeah,
like that if they just put up themselves doing a monologue in a self-tape light, that no, that's pointless. But actually it's far better than nothing, and just seeing you on camera acting is a great,
yeah,
far better than nothing, as long as the sound quality isn't absolutely dire. I
yeah,
presume that's the same for a vocal reel. At least have
yeah.
something there.
I mean, so many people now, especially during the pandemic, have invested in really great microphones and really tasty home recording equipment. There's nothing to stop you doing it yourself at home if you have the right equipment, and it doesn't actually cost that much to go into a local recording studio and just do 16 bars of 3 songs and
Mm.
medley them together. You could be in and out in an hour. What's that, £30, 35, £40, depending where you are in the country. I'm in the north, so it's probably a lot cheaper up here. It's probably not that down south, but you know,
Yeah.
if for your spotlight, you should have, if you're a musical theatre performer, 2 or 3 character numbers to show what I would say what you envisage your casting bracket to be.
Mm.
So I'm on spotlight as a performer myself. I have 16 bars of He's My Boy from Jamie. I have 16 bars of a Mama Rose song from Gypsy. I have 16 bars of Worst Pies in London from Sweeney Todd.
Mm.
They're 3 roles myself and my agent would envisage me performing. And then I have a couple of excerpts of songs, contemporary songs, where I'm just performing as me and not in character. So if any BV work came along or any jingle work or anything like that, they can hear what my actual Emma voice is and not me as a character. That's what I would like to see as a vocal reel of a performer on Spotlight.
Yeah,
A little bit of
that's what.
a little bit of character and a little bit of you. That's what I would
Yeah.
like to see. Yeah.
Well, we were going to ask you a question on what makes a good or a bad song choice for an audition, but you've sort of covered what you should include in a vocal reel, and I think that should translate to auditions unless you're asked to bring specific stuff, in which case you'll get sent it. But what are your sort of big no-nos for songs to put on a vocal reel, or songs that people have brought into auditions? What should people
I
avoid?
don't really have. I mean, a lot of casting directors have songs that they hate and they don't want to hear. I'm not like that. I'm not bothered. If it's a song that you love and you know it so well that it's in your bones and you can deliver it to me without any second thought or without any tentativeness, then that's great. I auditioned for Wicked just after Pirate Queen for Jim Arnold, and I was so engrossed in the Pirate Queen bubble, and the fact that while I was in Pirate Queen, I believe I had COVID during that time. I was really unwell, but no one knew what it was because it was February 2020. It was just everyone was like, "Why is Emma coughing all the time?" Well, Emma didn't know. Emma didn't know. She just had a cough. Everyone in the cast just kept handing me the black Jakemans, just wandering up to me and passing me black Jakemans. But I ended up in A&E. I was quite poorly, and anyway, my song was the end of Act 1. It was the big end of Act 1, and it was unaccompanied, and it was in Gaelic. So
Oh my Lord.
I had COVID. I was singing unaccompanied on stage at the London Coliseum, and it was in fluent Gaelic. So my head was not in Wicked territory.
Yeah.
So I went really. So I went in to see Jim Arnold. Such a wonderful opportunity to get in front of him and the Wicked team, and I just didn't take in songs that were embedded into my psyche. I thought, I'll be a bit clever and I'll learn a couple of new ones, leading up to that day. And I just didn't know them well enough, and they knew I didn't know them well enough. And yeah, I really regret that, not taking in material that I was really tight with, and you can tell when someone isn't. But obviously, never sing a song from the show itself unless you've got to the point where the CD is asking you to do that. But I mean, that's common sense to everybody, isn't it?
What is the actual reasoning behind that? Because I've heard it before, and I've heard that it's literally gospel in musical theatre world. And to me, I presume it's just a case of, well, everyone knows all the songs from this show. We hear them all the time anyway. We don't want to hear them. Or is it about, seeing if the performer knows what the style is and will therefore bring in something that matches it and it shows some understanding? What is that about?
Do you know what? I actually do not know.
Yeah.
That's a question I don't know the answer to. I don't know. Maybe it's to see how clever you are with your choices, how much you
I
care
guess, but
about it, you know?
because I've heard that being used, but I was a bit like, well, what is it about? Why do you care if they're clever? Surely you just want to, if they're going up for, say, Alpha Bird, surely you just want to hear them sing Defying Gravity, smash that out the park. Can you wear green paint? Okay, up you go.
Yeah,
I mean, that
maybe.
was greatly simplifying Wicked. Please
Yeah,
don't
it
come
was.
after me,
Yeah,
staging
absolutely.
people. Please do not come after me.
Yeah, that was a bit. Yeah, do you know? I don't know. That's a really good question, actually. And I'm sure, you know, as you get further down the process of having the casting directors on this program, you want to get Jim Arnold in and ask him, because he casts Wicked. He'll know the answer to that.
I'm not sure he wants to talk to me anymore, but
No, not for what you just said. Absolutely
no,
not.
it's genuinely a show I actually really like. It's not one I was legitimately dissing. And it's such a difficult singing part. So,
It really is. It really
yeah,
is. And I would suggest that the woman who sings Elphaba is not going for curries and blue wickeds after a show.
or COVID, yeah.
Yeah, she's having good sleep and she's taking care of herself, not like we were on our tour. But yeah, I actually have no idea why that would be. And I tell students all the time, never take a song into the room that you are from the show that you're auditioning for. And actually now I'm thinking to myself, well, why am I saying that? But because that's what I was taught when I was 18 and I was at
Yeah.
drama college, I suppose. It's just an
Start the
unwritten law.
revolution.
We'll find out. We'll get to it.
Yeah, we need to find out.
I'd love to talk a bit about your work as a casting director now. What motivated you to set up Maven Casting Associates? And what was the process of setting up the business like and establishing yourself in an industry that's already, I can imagine, very saturated?
Yeah. Well, you know, the pandemic happened. I started doing casting at Live Nation while I was looking after Sheridan and Calabro and AJ and all the other artists I was looking after. And I knew that I loved that side of it. My boss would, you know, if there was an event that Live Nation were putting on, like a big proms concert, or one of our major artists was going on tour, I was always going into Peter's office, my boss, and saying, do they need a choir? Should we put choirs on this tour? Or should we put kids on this proms? Or should we, like, always pushing to let him to let me do what I wanted to do. And most of the time, Peter said yes, which was really great. So I did a lot of work while I was there. I worked with the Riverdance team and cast a couple of roles in Heartbeat of Home at the Piccadilly Theatre, and did some tours and did all sorts of lovely things, pop videos. And then when the pandemic happened, I kind of knew that probably there was a risk of redundancy at Live Nation, because obviously the live world, gigs and stadiums and tours and all of that was just kaput for the time being. So I thought to myself, well, if I'm not going back to Live Nation, what has been my favourite part of being there? And my favourite part of being there was definitely the casting side. Even though I loved my clients, you know, I love looking after my clients, but the casting side, I got a buzz from. So when I was made redundant, off I went straight away and let the world know that I was doing it by myself. And I've been quite lucky since October. I've done some really nice jobs. Brilliant. And it's slowly snowballing. It takes a while, you know. I listened to your wonderful interview with Sydney, and she talks about how she does associate work for other casting directors and assistant work. And, you know, I've never done that. I've never been an assistant to a casting director, and I've never been an associate. I've always done it myself and by myself with, you know, a couple of colleagues helping me sometimes, but mostly it's been me at the helm of it. So that's been hard because, you know, none of the other casting directors don't know me. And yeah, you know, it's the same with you guys with your podcast. You know, you launch a brand new thing and you've got to find your place in the jigsaw of everybody. And
Yeah.
it's the same with me a little bit. You know, if a casting director came to me and said, "Will you come and assist on this for me, or will you associate on this for me?" You know, I would love to do that just to see how another office runs, because I kind of do things how I just assumed they should be done, and I'm going about some of the things I do really in a really long-winded way. There must be easier ways to do this job. So yeah, it's going to take a little while to. But I'm really lucky because Live Nation still pass all the casting work to me now as a freelancer, which is really good. But yeah, I'm trying to dip a little toe into more TV and film side of it. So even I've been reaching out to, you know, other casting directors with a view to, you know, helping and assisting them in that side of it.
That's fantastic. And I think,
Yeah.
people forget that it's not just actors that are learning and climbing that ladder on a daily basis. It's also agents, casting directors, producers.
Yeah,
Everyone is,
it
is
really
always
is.
learning and developing. And as you say, learning how to do things more efficiently, or,
Yeah,
whether that's learning what people have done for so many years that you didn't know about, or trying to revolutionize things. It's all of us learning together. I think that's what some people need to remember. Um,
absolutely.
you mentioned our talk with Sydney there, who is just brilliant,
Yeah,
and
she's wonderful.
like her, you put on your website quite publicly that you ensure that every performer that casts with you gets a yes or a no, which we would like to applaud you for, which we wholeheartedly
Thank you.
believe in as actors. And I think we all know why this is important, but I'd like to ask you why you feel why you feel like it is important personally, and that if you can do it, and Sydney can do it, and quite a few casting directors can do it that are supremely busy, what is the reasoning behind other people in casting not doing this?
Oh, oh. Well, I can't speak for anybody else. I
Of
can't.
course.
Um, I'm still at the baby steps stage of finding my way in the industry. I'm busy, but I'm not rammed, so I have time to do it. And if I can't do it, my assistant Rosie will do it for me. Um, even if it's at 3 o'clock in the morning, uh, if it means that an actor is going to wake up the following morning and know the outcome, then that makes me feel better and I can sleep. I can sleep better. Years and years ago, I auditioned for an absolutely huge West End show. I was only 20. How old was I? 23, 24, and I made it through to the very final stages. It was two or three of us for a role, and to this day, I still don't know whether I got that role or not because nobody let me know.
You're still
They were
waiting.
waiting.
Nobody let me know, and it dragged on and it dragged on. And it's before email and it was before mobile phones. So the only way I could have found out would have been a phone call to my mum's home because I didn't have an agent or spotlight or anything back then. And yeah, that whole thing really affected me really badly. I kind of shut down for about a month. I didn't leave it sounds really dramatic, doesn't it now? But I just was so devastated not to hear. And I think just that closure would have been better. And I think so every time now someone auditions for me, I just think back to that and how lost I felt and how anxious and how I couldn't make plans because I didn't know if I was going to be moving to London or not, or you know,
Yeah.
it's so yeah. I try and do it as quick as a decision is made. I try and get onto my laptop and let them know. And it's for the agent as well. It's not because the agent is living and breathing it too for their client. It's not just the
Yeah.
client. Um, and they want it just as bad for their client. So
Yeah.
it's two people that you need to set free a little bit when it's not going to go their way. But I mean, these massive companies, these massive casting companies, the amount of admin that they must be having to deal with.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I have massive amounts of admin, and I'm at the moment pre-casting a musical, and I'm doing 2 or 3 pantos. I mean, it's not massive stuff, but even my admin is shocking. It's a lot of stuff. So
Yeah. I mean, totally. It's the idea that I went to a casting workshop with one of the CDs that cast on the Crown, and someone was asking about the amount of applicants they get, and
Yeah,
it was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was something like 8,000 applicants for a sort of one-line butler part or
yeah,
reporter part on the Crown, which is an absurd amount
it
of
really is.
paperwork to doing and self-tips to doing, and by no means, I think, is the actors asking the question of, this yes or no thing. It's by no means actors underestimating, at least from my perspective, what casting directors do. It's an absurd amount of work for, a
Yeah,
really, at all hours. It's not about trying to be like, oh, why aren't you saying yes or no? I think it's more of, surely there's a smarter way to go about it that can make it efficient for both sides, but we get to have our cake and eat it. Like, I don't know if
yeah,
there's a sort of I mean, far smarter people must be working on this problem than me, but I don't know if there's a sort of
yeah,
blanket email thing where if you submit, then you're a no, you get put on a list, and you just get a blanket email that says, thank you so much for auditioning, unfortunately it didn't go your way this time, hope to
yeah,
see you again in the future. I think
yeah.
that's all any actors really want, at least from my perspective. I don't know, there's got to be a solution at some point, I think, but
I
I just
think
wanted to make
so.
sure that it wasn't us translating as being whiny actors that talking at the pub.
No,
Why didn't I get an email back? Do you know what I mean?
I did an audition a couple of years ago for Jerry Springer the Opera at the Hope Mill in Manchester,
Mm,
and I got an email back at 5 o'clock in the morning from the Pearsons,
wow.
and to me, I've never forgotten that, because I just thought, if someone is up, if James or Rosie are up at 5 o'clock in the morning making sure that I wake up to this email, then that is fantastic. And I've I've gone with it. I think we have a responsibility to everybody's well-being and mental health. And
Yeah.
and the only thing that sometimes grates, I'm going to say grates because I'm a happy, non-judgmental person generally. But when I send an email out and say, I'm sorry it's not gone your way, thanks for your time and talent, we'll see you in the future, and then I get an email back saying, can you give me more in-depth feedback? And I just think, do you know what, I really can't,
No.
because A, I don't have time really to do that, and B, you didn't do anything wrong.
No.
You just
Yeah.
weren't right. You just weren't the right fit. If I ask you for a tape or ask you into the room for me, I think you're absolutely great. You've not done anything wrong. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
I sometimes really just don't have time to jump and give full, really, really detailed feedback. I mean, sometimes I will, but very, very rarely. And some actors are quite adamant that they want mostly unrepresented actors, actually, for some reason, actors that are coming to me directly and not via an agent. Um, seems to be the case. They like to have more detailed feedback, but
Mm.
yeah, it's never generally, unless they've done something really drastically wrong, and I feel like they should know that. Basically, more often than not, they haven't done anything wrong at all. It's just a case of not being the right. I use this analogy a lot, but the right piece of the right jigsaw piece for the
Mm.
jigsaw.
Yeah,
Um,
I get
but
that.
yeah, I will always let people know how they've done.
That's
Definitely.
fantastic. You just mentioned there about actors without agents and also ones with. What's the best way for actors to get in touch with you? Because I know every casting director is different, whether it's they like to be emailed or letters. What works for you?
I I actually really love actors getting in touch with me and emailing me whenever it is. Uh, I I actually really appreciate it, because sometimes an email will come in and it will. I'm casting a really difficult thing at the moment for Live Nation, and it's a UK tour of a really successful show called What's Love Got to Do with It, and another
Mm.
sister tour called um, Whitney Queen of the Night. So the team are looking for a lady who can do Whitney and Tina to a really, really high standard, both of those roles, because they're sister tours that run with the same team, but is happy to stand back and be on backing vocals for probably 3 shows a week, and has to be a specific kind of height, specific look, a driver. Or there's just a mass of things to this brief. So it's really difficult to find that woman, you know. And last week, a couple of ladies emailed me out of the blue, not even in relation to this casting, but just to let themselves be known that they were on the planet, you know, and they were performers, and they just suited this brief. And I was like, oh my God,
wow.
Thank you, Lord, you know. And just, you know, I'm so grateful that happened, and it happens all day long like that. You know, I've cast some people in a couple of pantos just before Christmas who just emailed me out of the blue just to say, hey, here's my picture, here's my show reel, I live here, I've done this, blah blah blah, and that they just something about what they sent that struck a chord with me, and then they've ended up being booked this Christmas to do panto. So yeah, I don't mind it. I love it, and if there's something about your email, I will file your way, definitely, for future. But I mean, Sydney, I'm sure Sydney said that in her chat too. She has folder after folder of specific looks and specific types and people that could play certain roles, and I'm exactly the same.
And by that, I think actors need to also remember, you know, myself being an actor, that, you know, emailing a casting director isn't just saying, hello, you know, this is my stuff, whoever you are, please cast me in something. Put in the effort to be specific with your casting email. Make sure you look up the names of the casting director.
Because I get Dear Maven all the time.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's not difficult to find out who is the casting director behind that company. You're active on Twitter. You're active. It's on the website. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and it's quite frustrating to see that, because it's never from a bad place. It's just from, come on, just put that extra bit of effort.
I'm back and forth with agents all day, and very fast sometimes, and I forget the name of the specific agent for that client. So sometimes I will put "Good afternoon, team," or "Hey, team," and I sometimes worry: am I annoying that agent by not remembering the Christian name of that agent? So I've put together a little database now of who, you know, the people that I'm really in constant contact with, who they're looking after. But yeah, it is a courtesy to just double check. I think they think Maven is my Christian name.
And casting is your surname.
Yeah, I might change it by default now, so it's easier for everyone.
Just easier for everyone involved.
I chose Maven because it means a woman who is an expert in a particular field.
I love that.
I heard it on America's Top Model. I used to watch America's Top Model all the time, and there was a woman on the judging panel. They used to introduce her as a fashion maven. So I googled what maven meant, and it meant a woman with knowledge in a field. And I've always remembered it, and I loved it. So I thought, well, I'll go with that instead of using my own name.
Brilliant. Well, people that listen to this, if you want to find a way to make sure that you know Emma and you know what she's about, then put that, you know, America's Top Model definition in the email.
Yeah.
I'd love to, you know, we've barely had time to really scratch the surface with all your different sides of work. I'd just like to quickly ask how difficult it is to manage these different strands, and especially if they're all going well at the same time. That's often when it's hardest to do these different careers, is when they're all going well.
Yeah.
And on sort of on top of that, what would you say to those that think you can't be multiple things in this industry, whether that's casting and acting, or acting and teaching, or acting and directing, or writing? Those that, you know, label people like that jack of all trades, master of none.
Gosh, that's the longest question I've ever heard in my life.
Welcome to In the Room questions from Matthew Philip Harris. They are inappropriately long and probably stupidly written.
That was 49 questions in one question. Let's see.
That's that.
So how do I manage all the different strands? Well, at the moment, I'm not really doing that much performing because of the pandemic. So, and I was really lucky at Live Nation. If a performing job came in for me, Peter would let me have what do you call it, where they let you out of work for a little while to go off and have a jolly. What was it called? What's the word? It's got a certain word, hasn't it? Sabbatical.
Yes.
Yes, like so. Peter is I met my boss Peter through Amdram 10 years ago, so he knows about the performing side of me, and so he would let me toddle off and do little bits and take unpaid leave and come back, and my clients would would let me go off and do it. They would tolerate me leaving them in the lurch for a couple of weeks to do a play or something. But so yeah, that was fine. I mean, at the moment, there's not a great lot happening because of the pandemic. I had a couple of auditions. One was for a Netflix thing a couple of weeks ago. I had to do a self-tape myself, which I've never had to do really before. And I wax lyrical on my socials about how to do self-taping because I'm watching them all day long.
And then you get one and you go, oh no.
Yeah, it was a bit like that Johnny Weldon sketch that's doing the rounds at the moment. I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah, it was all a little bit like me shouting at my boyfriend to help me set the lights up and reading the other part, and and he's not an actor by any stretch of the imagination, so with his very broad Geordie accent, so it was all a bit dodgy. So yeah, I'm not. There's not so much performing going on. I'm about to do an R&D of a musical in May, so that'll be nice. But yeah, I'm lucky. If you're looking after your business self-employed, you can juggle all sorts of things, can't you? Really, you manage your own time, you manage your own diary, and what you can realistically take on and not take on, I suppose. And with regards to your question about being multiple things, I do a lot of chats to graduates and kids and teenagers, and I say to them that I use this hashtag be more Sheridan. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Would be more like Sheridan.
Yeah, because
Smith
she
does everything.
Well, she does everything. She does straight drama, she does comedy, she does musical theatre.
I saw her in Funny Girl.
She's just fantastic. I mean, and she presents, she records her own music, she tours her own music, she does voiceover. Like, she does every single part of the industry, and so she will never be unemployed. And so I say to these kids, if just dip your toe into it, and if you're good at it, that's great, because that's one more thing that can make you castable and employable as you get older. If you're a great dancer, do some acro, start learning some acro, and if you're an actor, musician, pick up an acoustic guitar or a violin, or learn some piano, because there's always work for actor musos. And I wish I dipped my toe into more things when I was younger, definitely. But I mean, it doesn't even matter what age you are. Pick up a guitar if you want to, because who can say in 5 years' time it might come in handy for a job? You never know, do you?
No, sure.
Yeah, I think you can. There's so many people, especially during the pandemic, so many people are turning to producing their own stuff and writing their own stuff, and it's fantastic to see how people are just evolving as creatives, and they've had to, because of the pandemic and the amount of free time they've had. They've utilised it really brilliantly, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's great to see people not just sat there watching Netflix all the time. They're actually putting it to good use.
Although I did spend all of April last year in my pajamas watching Game of Thrones.
I was going to say, Christian, that I don't think we have probably been guilty of that.
I wasn't referring to myself. I was talking about people that use the time wisely. I've been playing Call of Duty.
Oh yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
I'd love to just finish up with asking what your plans and goals are for the future in the many areas of work that you do, whether it's casting or acting.
There's so many things. I'm 47 next week, and I think to myself, I've got 20 more years of working life in this industry, and what do I want to do with it?
Life then?
In this life, yeah.
Morbid.
What's morbid? Do you know what I mean? Though I've got another 19, 16. I'm really good at math. I'm really bad at math, so I can't even know how many years that is. But 20 years, and I think to myself, well, what do I want to do with those 20 years? And I don't know. I really would like to cast for telly. I did a couple of TV ads before Christmas, and I just got such a buzz from it. Yeah, to move more into casting the acting side of things as opposed to just singers and musical theatre would be great. I would love to write a screenplay. I've been in the pandemic. I've been writing monologues for actors, and met some absolutely brilliant actors who've recorded them and filmed them for me, and I've put them online. That's been really, and they're not going to go anywhere. They were just for my mental health and just for me to be creative during this year of being at home. So yeah, that was really good. And these actors came out of nowhere and showed their hand and said, I'll do one for you. And so it's been really lovely to see my words acted out by some really, really fantastic people. I don't know, casting wise, I'd love to work more in children's casting. I really enjoy that. I don't know, I just love being in the industry, and I love meeting people, and whichever road it takes me down, I'll be really happy, really, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely sentiment to sort of close on. You sort of touched on it there, the idea that, if you work hard enough and you do in the area that you're passionate in, it will eventually take you in the right direction. You might just not know it yet.
Yeah.
And it's been a real pleasure chatting to you this evening.
Thank you.
Emma, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real laugh, and we've learned so much. So
I'm just going to nip off and type in Christian Lee Smith, Shrek the Musical.
No.
In fact,
I'm so ready.
It's going straight on my Twitter the minute I find it.
I think we need to do a bonus audio episode with that put on. I'm ready for it. I'm here.
I'm ready.
Have a lovely rest of your evening, Emma,
thank you
and
so
I'm
much,
sure we'll
both
have
of
you
you
on again soon. Thank you
Emma.
so much.
Thanks, and congratulations on a brilliant podcast. It really is wonderful.
Thank you. That's really kind.
You're welcome.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast.
We hope you enjoyed it and learned something.
We look forward to having you back in the room very, very soon.